Camera number 405 is the Argus C3, affectionately known as the Brick. Made in the USA from around about the late 30s for some considerable time, up until almost the late 60s. Very popular camera, made of Bakelite and metal, and it requires no batteries for operation. There is no light meter, so you have to use an external meter or Sunny 16 rule. So let's just run through some of the features of the camera. The lens, it's a 3.5 50mm Argus coated Sintar lens. The lens, I didn't realise, it's actually exchangeable by removing this dial and the associated little other dial here that rotates the lens for focusing, and then you can actually unscrew the lens. And there were a couple of other lenses made for the Argus C3, but I don't have them, so I have just the 50mm. But if anyone knows how I might be able to get another lens, please let me know in the comments. So the lens, as I say, is there. Our shutter speed dial is here in the front. We go from 1/10 of a second through to 1/300th of a second. And then our cocking mechanism for the shutter is here. We push it up, and then we release the shutter with the shutter release like that. So we focus with the dial, and that rotates. So when you're behind the camera looking through, there are two viewfinder. There's a viewfinder, there's the viewfinder, and there's the rangefinder. They're both quite clear, actually. I was quite surprised. And it's a sort of a split image in the rangefinder. So by turning the dial here, the focusing dial, we can activate our rangefinder, and we just wait until we have an image that coincides, and then we're in business. Can of course go alone if you like. If you prefer to just guesstimate your distance, you can do that as well. So the viewfinder, as I say, is a very bright viewfinder. That's the left-hand one. On the top, as I mentioned, we have our shutter button here, and we have our film counter. We set that to 0. I'll show how we use that. This lever here is he says, looking at the manual, film catch, which is required to advance the film. But as I say, we'll come back onto that in a few moments. And that's the film wind on. And then on the base, we have a tripod mount, and then our film rewind lever, or button if you like, dial. Okay, so to open the door of the camera, just need to push and release the mechanism. Now my one's incredibly stiff, so I have to kind of manhandle it a little bit. There we go. And then we have our film chamber. So let's just put a film in, and then we can go through how we actually advance the films. A little bit more, maybe convoluted perhaps, I'm not sure. So we have to just release the dial, and then we can put our film in. Actually, what I like to do personally is to make sure it goes in the film advance. So there's a little slit which we can put our film through. There we go. And then just make sure that goes on nicely. There we go. And then we can put that in. Just like to. There we go. And so once the film's on the spool, we can close our door, and then we basically just wind it on until it goes no further. So I can't move that any further, or if I can, but it won't actually move any further. So I suspect that film is probably exposed. So to advance the film, we have to push this film latch and just advance the film wind on mechanism until it stops, which it does there. And then once we've done that, we can actually then set our film counter to 0, which actually just happens to be there. And then we just operate the camera as normal. We focus with our dial in the front here, and then we cock the shutter and then take our image. So to advance the film again, we have to do the same thing. We have to press the latch down, just advance the film slightly, release the latch, and then hopefully it should wind it on to number 1, which it does. And then you just continue to do that until you reach the end of the film. I did forget to mention, around the shutter release, there are 2 markings. I, which is for normal shooting, if you like. I think, is it interval shooting? I think they call that. But if we want to go below 1/10 of a second, which is the lowest shutter speed here, we can just turn the dial to B, and then we're in bulb mode. It does have a provision to screw a cable release, which you'll probably want when you're using bulb mode. There we go. So it really is, well, I actually enjoyed going out with the camera. I must say I was looking forward to trying it out. Very heavy camera, and it has a substantial camera case, unsurprisingly. But how do we get on? Well, maybe we can see some of the images. But in the meantime, this is the Argus C3, camera number 405.